Hello students, welcome to our English classes. We'll continue with the chapter 1, the poem Casabianca written by Felicia Hemans from the textbook Real English. This is our second session. Let us recapitulate what we had taken in the earlier session. In the earlier session, we had seen Casabianca, a 13-year-old boy who was standing alone on the board of the ship which was already caught by fire. The flames of the fire were rising all around him, but he was so brave that he did not move from that place. There was no sign of fear on his face, though he could see death around him. He was so loyal and obedient to his father and equally responsible to his duty towards his nation that he first wanted the permission to save himself from the fire, though he did not know the fact that his father was already dead in the ship. Now let us see further what the poet has written. So we'll start with the fifth stanza of the poem. "Speak, father," once again he cried, "if I may yet be gone." And but the booming shots replied, and fast the flames rolled on. So here the poet says how Casabianca calls out to his father again and again. He cries to him. Cries to means he asks his father whether he could leave the post or whether his duty has been done. But the reply is not from his father's side, but he could only get the booming shots from the enemies. Booming means a very loud sound, okay, which you get from the cannons, and he could only listen to these booming shots, and which had made the fire more aggressive and which was covering the ship very aggressively. Next stanza. Upon his brow he felt their breath, and in his waving hair, and looked from that lone post of death in still yet brave despair. So here poet explains that how the flames were rolling out, rushing towards the boy, and the boy could feel his death around him. In this stanza, she tells that he feels the heat on his forehead. They have mentioned the word brow. Brow means someone's forehead. So he could feel the heat on his forehead and on his waving hair. Though he knew his death, he stood quiet and calm. He did not move from his post. He looked around from that place of the death, that is the lone post, with bold heart. Though he was feeling that there is no hope, he was very much disappointed. He was very much brave at that particular position, though he was disappointed. The word despair means complete loss of hope. Moving on to the next stanza. And shouted but once more aloud, "My father, must I stay?" While over him fast, through sail and shroud, the writhing fires made way. In this stanza, the poet expresses that how Casabianca was asking again and again his father. He shouted once again in a loud voice, and he was asking whether he wanted to know if it was necessary for him to stay over there. Just then the flames just rushed through the sails and ropes. Here the word writhing means covering or covering or surrounding everywhere around that boy, and shroud means a piece of cloth that a dead person's body is wrapped in before burial. Sail is a sheet of strong cloth which the wind blows against to move a ship. See, you could see this is the sail. As you could see, the fire is just covering all the ropes and the sail, and the whole ship is being covered by the flames, and the boy is standing on the deck in middle of the fire and smoke. Let us move to the next stanza. They wrapped the ship in splendor while they caught the flag on high, and streamed above the gallant child like banners in the sky. So poet tells us how the flame surrounds the ship very easily, and it covers all the sides of the ship, where the boy is just in between, remaining with questions why his father was not answering him. The flames even reached out to the flag, which was flying high, very high on the ship. They also surrounded the brave boy like the flag's shadow in the sky. Like the way they have used the word wrapped. Wrapped is nothing but wrapping up. Splendor is something impressive beauty, and the wild is that the flames which has engulfed over there is the wild thing what the poet is mentioning in this poem, and which caught the flag high. The flag is generally being used on the ship to tell which country does the ship belongs to, and streamed above the gallant child. Gallant child means brave child. The meaning for gallant is brave. Streamed is moving or spreading like banners in the sky. When you see some banners high in the sky, they just float in the air. Just like that, the flames were just moving here and there up in the sky, and all was left was this brave boy in between. Moving on to the next stanza. There came a burst of thunder sound. The boy, oh, where was he? Ask of the winds that far around with fragments strewed the sea. So here poet says that suddenly a loud noise was heard there, and no one can imagine that where the body of the brave boy was. Only the winds could tell, which were blowing around the boy, that where was he. That means the fire has totally covered the whole part of the ship, and the boy was no more. He was also dead over there, since the ship was being damaged and was engulfed by the fire. So coming to the last stanza of this poem. With mast and helm and pennon fair, that well had borne their part, but the noblest thing which perished there was that young faithful heart. So here the poet says that even the mast or the rudder and the flag which is flying very high on the ship, or the all these things have done their job pretty well. They are praiseworthy. But the noblest thing which died there was the young, obedient and disciplined heart, that was Casabianca. Here, let me explain you the word mast. Mast is a tall pole that supports the sail which I have told you earlier. Helm is the handle or a wheel to steer the ship, that is like a kind of steering. Pennon, a small triangular flag for the ship which are being made over there. And borne means something which is carried, which is taken away, and it is also a past participle for bear, bear, bear. Now this is how a poem about Casabianca, which talks about honesty, obedience, discipline. Here the poet tries to tell that this young fellow who did not get worried about the fact that there was a fire around him, but he was very much conscious that as his father has told him to stay on the post, he did not move from that post, and he was waiting for his orders. And finally he had to face the death, as the fire which was rolling up towards him and covered the ship, and finally only the things which were left were the particles, small particles that strewed on the sea. Here we come to the end of the poem Casabianca, written by Felicia Hemans. I have given you the meanings. After this presentation, you will take down that in your notebooks.